As the NXL headed to Chicago for the 2020 Windy City Major, the two names haunting the rest of the Pro League were familiar to anyone who had been a fan of the game in the modern era. Edmonton Impact and Houston Heat, with their wins at the first two events, were on familiar ground. These two teams have always been on the tip of everyone's tongues when talking about the best teams in the world. Again, they had proved their supremacy early on in the season. Now the question was, could they stay at the top with all the strong squads like Dynasty, X Factor, and the Russians, legends in their own right, hot on their heels? Also, new teams were in the hunt for their own slice of paintball greatness. For those at the bottom of the standings, a scary situation awaited them if they could not pull out of their downward spiral. Relegation back down to the semi-pro division awaited the last place team at the end of the year. This event was the last chance to prove yourself before the World Cup.
Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall here with Nick Slowiak, the Los Angeles Ironmen. He stayed. They're going to rebuild the squad. We're going to talk about that today. We are getting to the beginning of this season. Teams are already starting to practice, and it's been a wild offseason. That's another reason we got Nick on here today, is to discuss all these crazy moves. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, first event, NXL season's coming up here March 11th through the 13th. Also, if you want to watch all the crazy battles from last year, we're currently working on episode 4 of 4 Sundays. Episode 3 just dropped, and we're going to continue to have some of the leading lights in our sport here on Go Sports Live to discuss things as we head into that first event. So without any further ado, Nick, man, how you doing today? How you doing? Beer's looking well. Strong.
It's feeling strong. I'm going to have to put some I5s on to trim it up. That's going to be my next viral video I'm working on. But doing well. A little bit colder. I recently, right before Christmas, moved from Florida to Wisconsin. So I'm back in the Midwest. I'm loving it. It's nice up here.
Yeah, so you got your winter beard. We got a decent amount to talk about today, and I guess we should just jump right in and talk about the Ironman stuff. You know, rumors kind of swirling around at who you guys are not going to pick up. Just to kind of give everyone a brief summary of how things went down. The Ironmen built a winning team at the beginning of 2020. You were on that team. You guys won Vegas in spectacular fashion. It was the first win in 10 years for the squad. And then COVID hit, lost A-Rod. Todd wasn't able to make it, as he was your coach at the time, to Cup, only 2 events that year. And then, last year you guys picked up John Jackson. Most of the team had stayed. Todd moves on to Heat. You pick up Nicky McGivers as the coach. And you guys, didn't have the year you guys wanted to have. 14th, 16th, you made Sunday at the 3rd event, which again, everyone can go watch that on 4 Sundays right now and see how they did. And then a 14th. And then at the end of last season and heading into this season, the off season was madness, as you guys, the starting lineup got gutted. You and Al are still there though. And now you guys are rebuilding. So kind of talk me through what was going. Let's just start here. Because I remember as I was hearing some rumors, let's throw it back a little bit. As I was hearing some rumors, and I was like, well, Jesus Christ, man, and I was on the Ironman for 6 years. So I do have my bias is showing slightly. I want the Ironman to not suck. It's kind of important to me for history. It's the longest running pro team. It's the California team. It's the factory is not far from where I lay my head every night. So as things were kind of getting crazy in the offseason, I was like, man, this is okay. They're losing a lot of people, and then I was like, well, is Nick going to stay? So what was going on in your head, and what were your thoughts?
Well, 2 years ago was awesome. Shout out to winning the Vegas event. There was uncertainty with 2 guys right away. Silos was upfront about getting an offer from the Saints. And I was still in Florida at the time, and I talked to him about that, and the money offer, and was it the right move? Was it not the right move? Depending on where you're at in your life and what you have going on, your job, family, money means more to some people than it does to others. So, that was a big deciding factor for him. LJ Parrish has gotten, and obviously we know how that worked out. He decided to go. He's one of the first pros, I think, to really sign with the Saints. LJ Parrish has been asked by numerous teams throughout the years to join them, be it Infamous or Impact, X Factor. Just about any team, would be lucky to have LJ on their squad. But where LJ's at in his life and the things that he wants to do. He was just looking to try something different. And he decided to go with X Factor. Peyton joined the Navy, which we knew was coming. We knew pretty much, at least I think he joined the Navy. Peyton, if you haven't joined the Navy, I'm going to be really upset with you. I think he has. I haven't seen any of his crazy updates on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever he does these days, but he joined the Navy. We knew that. John Jackson just got married in January, and just with his store and everything he's got going on in his life, decided to take a break. And then I guess the surprise one was was Corey. We had a team meeting, a Zoom call that we were all talking about possible pickups. He was naming people in the Southern California area that he knew of. Everything seemed good. And then I think it was 4 or 5 days later, or that coming weekend, he went to the field and told Al and Nikki and Fran that, he was gone. So didn't really see that one coming. I was really hoping, even with LJ, that he would stay. But, I get it. I respect his decision. Everyone has to make those choices. And then the only other player that we have left over is Zach Carter, who we picked up for Cup. We wanted to pick him up earlier last year, but he had committed to Grit and actually moved from California to Texas to play with them. And then it just so happened to work out that they kind of fell apart and he moved back to California. So we picked him up for Cup. But he's a really, really good player, really young, local. And I'm really excited to see how well he does this year. I know he's hungry to get after it, and he's got a huge amount of potential. So Al, myself, and Zach.
So let's start with Zach, because there's a lot of different ways we can go with this, but let's start with Zach. So Zach's a product of the BKI kind of combine school, right? Because I remember
he did come through there,
seeing him down there, and you guys had talked about him. I've heard good things. I've seen him play a bit. Good player, and just haven't really seen how he's going to do at the pro level of competition. He's got a lot of talent, seems to have a good head on his shoulders and a lot of drive. What position do you see Zach playing for the Ironmen this season?
He'll be over on the judo side, whether he's the 1 or the 2. He can go up the middle. He's quick. He's versatile. And he, with the lineup we had going into Cup, he didn't get the opportunity to play a lot of points or to be that number 1. So it's kind of right now just, trial by fire. He's going to have to get out there and get it done. And that's the position he's been playing in the last 2 weekends that I was out there, is just as that number 1. We had a little bit of an all-star squad mixing it up against all the guys that came out to try out. Mouse was out there, Chad Boucher, Ronnie Dazan, Brandon Cornell, Spica, myself, Zach, and Al, and we all mixed in and played together, which was kind of fun. That's one of the cool things about the melting pot of Southern California paintball is you can never kind of know who's going to show up to practice, and everyone's on a different squad. So that was a lot of fun. And this is albeit before Spica leaves to join the Saints. So that was interesting too. But he played against those guys and played with those guys and did really well. So I'm really excited to see how he does. I know he has a huge amount of potential to be great. And any of those other pro teams listening can kick rocks and piss off because he's on our team.
I think we should just jump into the fact, why did you turn down the $200,000 a year offer from the Saints? That's some big money, dog. I'm surprised that the $300,000 that you were offered, why did you not take that $500,000?
Yeah. You know what? I think there's no offer. There was no offer for me. I kind of insulted Diego.
You told me the story at World Cup. You told me yeah. So your persona non grata. You guys are not two peas in a pod.
I don't know. I know the Saints Instagram page has blocked me, so I guess that says something, right? I can't click on their page, and I've never tried to look him up because I really don't care. But we went to Charlie's Steakhouse, which is a tradition at Cup. Went there with Nikki, Fran, and some other people, and Dynasty shows up as we're waiting for our table, and they had just changed their dress policy or reinforced it. Like Al Fernandez and I just drove back from the event where we're not showered. Like we're in hats. We're like, I'm in shorts. Last year when we went, it was wearing the same stuff. No one said anything about wearing a hat, whatever. I'm in sandals. We're in Florida. So I'm with Brandon Short at the front desk, and they're like, you can't walk in with a hat on. And I was like, well, oh, really? Okay. And Diego, who I've never met before, don't know who this guy is. And he's not wearing any paintball clothing. He's not wearing an HK shirt or anything to give him that is a paintball player, but he's been next to Brandon. He comes up to me and he kind of like puts his arm around me, and he's wearing a hat. And the hostess goes, oh, is he with you? And me being like, I was like, no, I don't know who this guy is. I think he's just a fan, like, of Dynasty. I don't know where he came from. And he's like, oh, you don't know me? Like, just gets really like, you could tell like I didn't know who he was, and it made him unhappy. And I looked at Brandon. I was like, what was that all about? And like he like walked off to the bar, kind of just like complaining about it. And Brandon's like, oh, that's the guy I coach for. And I was like, oh, I feel bad. Like I guess that was kind of a dick thing to do. Like I'm sorry, man. Like I didn't know who you were. Like I didn't mean it in a mean way, but I walked up to the bar.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows you're such a raging asshole. I mean, dude, you know, I mean, like ask around, right? You know,
that's true. That's true. But I walked up to the bar to try to apologize to him. And he kept brushing me off, and I was like, and he said he didn't care. And I was like, well, look me in the eye. Remember, you're the one that said that you don't care. So I tried to apologize, dude. I'm good, whatever. And that's when I knew I would never have an offer from that guy, which I don't think I would care about because it doesn't really matter. I'm not motivated by the money to go play for a team like that. So whatever. There's my story.
So we got a little Nick Slowiak Latin Saints rivalry going for the 2022 season. No, it's that. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it's a rough one, but
I mean, it's really not
okay.
That crazy of a story, I guess. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so you had a couple words with you told Diego that you didn't know who he was, and he didn't like that, and I mean that's the story, right?
Yeah. So there's the reason why I didn't get an offer, and I'm blocked on social media from seeing them.
I thought there was going to be like ninjas jumping in or something, like an attempted kidnapping. You know what I'm saying? Like a plane crash or something. I don't know, something crazy in the story.
That was the joke, though, right? Like, oh, now there's a hit out on you. You're gonna have to watch your back. It's like, okay, well, they can come to Wisconsin. I don't know.
No one wants to go to Wisconsin right now, Nick. Even the Assassins.
I know.
So let's just kind of again jump a little bit back here and talk. So then, all right, everyone leaves, right? Corey leaves. He's the last guy to go. I mean, at what type of conversations? Like, oh, well, we need to pick up a bunch of people. So did you guys get on the horn, start calling people up, or obviously got to have some sort of tryout, see if you can, you know, like Peyton Tabata was found at a tryout, and he was, you know, somebody that contributed for you guys. You never know what divisional player is going to step up and emerge and kind of come out of their cocoon every season. It happens every year. Somebody steps up. It's cool to watch. It's one of the fun things I like about watching this game and seeing the evolution of things is, you know, who is going to kind of be the next guy up to roll out and start, you know, killing people and become a name for us to talk about. So yeah, what was the game plan kind of heading into trying to rebuild the squad?
So you have to say, remember at this point too, right before Corey left, we had already lost John, LJ, Silos, Peyton. So there were 4 of us, and we had already had the conversation of who's in Southern California, because one of the focal points too that the team die and the organization of the Ironmen really wants to have happen is be local. Like there should be a squad of guys that are on the team that are local that could go to and practice together to build that chemistry. It's almost something that has to happen because the team, you know, they're not throwing around contracts thanks to A-Rod and whoever else has broken those in the past and left. But they're not doing that anymore. And there is just a need for chemistry. And with all the moves that had happened, there really wasn't much to really attract people to the Ironman. The decision was made, like, we're not going to throw any big money offers at people. Like, it's just not going to make any sense. This is not where the direction the team wants to go in. So at the time that Corey was still on the team, we had a Zoom call, and everyone in on the call, except for me, is locally based in Southern California. So they were discussing local people and reaching out to some people. And at this point, again, too, everyone knew that we lost all these people. It was public. So people were already reaching out to myself and various others on the team. And we were just passing the information on to Nikki, and she was kind of vetting them. And then we had the date set for the first practice tryout, and she was sending them invites. So the ball was already rolling, and we already had a date set for people to come out. So then when Corey left, it was like, all right, well, just one more spot we have to fill. And I kind of just let them roll with it, because the people they were naming, aside from a few other pro players, I didn't know. I didn't know who any of them were. They'd seen them play the WCPPL. They'd seen them locally come out to Victory Paintball Park at Pendleton. So I was like, cool. Well, I guess, there's a few people I do know that I've reached out to that Nikki gave the okay to, that were flying in from out of state. Otherwise, the vast majority of the people that came to the first tryout and then the second tryout, the callbacks, are all Southern California based, or West Coast based, I should say.
Any names that people that have been watching pro paintball for a couple years would know? I know Kaito Warner tried out for you guys. I was texting with him, and I know that John Kurzawa was thinking about trying out. I don't know if he did or not. I'm not exactly sure. Are those two names that are going to be? No, John did not come out. Okay.
John couldn't come out. John couldn't come out, and he can't play the first event. So he's not part of it. Kaito has officially, no, I guess not. He's on the team. We picked up Kaito.
Oh, yeah. All right. Good. That's a good
pickup. There you go.
I like Warner, dude. I think he's good. I think he could be good.
He is good. Great communication. Corey Field talked to him, had nothing but great things to say about him. And unfortunately, in the situation they're in, they couldn't keep him. I know that he wanted to, but, those are just the way things are. We picked him up. We got Hank, a local pickup here in Wisconsin, that actually came out, that played under Cody Mikowski and his Wisconsin Infamous squad and won a World Cup with them. Really excited about him. And actually, they're going to be at Victory Paintball Park this weekend. So maybe you want to head out to the park. You can go. I completely forgot about that till just now. They're all flying out to California to practice, everyone but me. So,
well, if I went, I'd have to bring. I'm on kid duty this week. My wife's going to for her first girls trip since the baby, so I'm going to be watching the child all weekend and writing voiceovers for episode 4 of 4 Sundays. But if I went out, I'll be like little Monty on the. Hey, Monty will be. Yeah. Monty's going to play some paintball whether he likes it or not. There are certain things that are going to make my child. So some people are, you don't want to make your kid do things that they don't want to do. I'm not that type of dad. He's going to have to do. I was made to do certain things. Like, I didn't want to take out the trash or mow the lawn back in the day. I had to do those things. That was part of being a human being in the Marshall household. There's a bunch of shit I didn't want to have to do, but you just have to do certain things. I didn't have to play paintball. I love that. That was actually, my parents hated it, but he's going to play paintball. And then if he enjoys it, that's cool. He can continue to do it. I'm not gonna make him play more than a couple times. He has to come and play a little bit. But then we'll see. I'm not going to force him to join a team, but I'm going to force him to play. He's going to do jujitsu. He's going to box. He's going to do jujitsu, and he's going to do paintball. He has to try all those things. If he doesn't like them, that's fine, but he needs to at least experience those things a little bit. Okay. What do you think? You're rolling your eyes.
I like it. I like it. No, I'm trying to think of having this conversation with my wife about my 2 daughters and how well this would go over, but that's a story for another time. My friend. But we have Hank. We got Kaito Warner. We've got 3 guys that we picked up that were previous, I should say now, part of the Hunters organization, a semi-pro squad. We've got Chris, Nick, and Clay, who are on the squad. Alex Keys will be wearing the shield for the first event. He came out, played really well. Decent. Yeah. So there's some good guys on that squad.
So who? Keys. In some spins last year for Aftermath, he was a guy that was getting some kills and making his presence known. So I would like to see him continue to see where he could go with it. I think Kaito, coming out of Arizona and then playing last year with Thunder a little bit. A guy I'd like to see get more spins so we can see where he's going to develop. Don't know any of those other guys. So is Hank? Is that Hank? Is last? Would like? Is that his last name? First name? What's his last name?
His last name is Stumpf. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Stumpf. I looked it up just now just to make, because I knew you were going to ask me, just so I could tell it to you. Yeah, Stumpf. Stumpf. Would you pronounce the F? Stump? I don't know. Yeah.
Stumpf.
So Clay Hughes. Yeah.
I'm just gonna butcher his name. I'm gonna say it however I can say it. You know, I try to do a good old college try on the names. I say this to everyone if you're listening out there. I'm just gonna read your name the best I can after reading names for a long period of time, and if I mess it up, I apologize, and I'm just gonna say it that way until you come correct me. You know, it's like look at Greg Sewers. I mean, we said Sewers for 8 years, 9 years, and then like 9 years in, Greg comes up. He's like, "Hey, Matty, can I talk to you about something?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure. What's up, dude?" He's like, "Yeah, so my last name, it's actually Sewers, not Sewers." And I was like, "Bro, I've known you for like 10 years. Now you're finally going to tell me?"
Out.
And and then I had to officiate his wedding. And so that was just like, "Oh, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up."
I believe it. But yeah, we've got, or then Alec Bouchang, Alex Keys, Nick Hunt, aka Chicken, Chris Tregarthen, Clay Hughes, Hank Stumpf, Kaito Warner, Zach Carter, Al Fernandez, and myself.
I like that. Another name in there that I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was going to say the name that I'm. All right, you go.
Yeah, say it. This delay is driving me crazy. You got to say it. You go.
No, you go.
Okay, I'll go.
You go.
And with possibly rumor mill, with possibly a chance for maybe one or two other people, but we'll just have to wait and see.
So Chris Tregarthen is a guy that I've always been impressed by how good Chris has been. He's getting a little older now, but I've known Chris for maybe 15 years now. I mean, he came up as a younger guy in the Hitman camp. He would be out there. We would play, go play big games, and that dude would have a pump gun with 500 on 500 and just slaughtering people, like Audie Murphy in World War II. And if you've never heard of Audie Murphy, go look that up for a fascinating story. But yeah, he was just murderous out there. And then he played on Long Beach State on the college championships, and he was out there just making these poor college paintball players look like they'd never played before, as he was just scything through them and cutting heads off with his laser beams of paint. And then he broke his hand one year, and it's literally like, I've broken both my hands before, and it's a pain in the ass when you break your hands. And his hand looked like he showed me the x-rays later. So he had broken this bone down here, which I've broken that bone on both these hands. And it's really hard to do anything with it after you've done that. And his hand swelled up like it looked like a bear paw. And he still was out there playing one-handed and just murdering people in route to a win, dude. Like Chris Tregarthen,
like that.
He's a guy that I've always wanted to see try to get on a pro team and play, like give it a legit chance, because I mean he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen play that never played pro. So I'm glad that you guys are giving Chris a chance. How did he play in the tryouts?
He did well. We had 2 weekends of play, and no one, I wouldn't say anyone, and even with the guys that didn't get the callbacks, a lot of people played really well. And I have to tip my hat to everyone that reached out and came out, because, again, a lot of people talk about wanting to get to the top and opportunities and how do I get the opportunity? Well, I guess it wasn't nothing that the team socially or die socially put out there. But if you're following tournament paintball, the NXL, and unless you're living under a rock, you would have had to know that the Ironmen lost a bunch of people. And I was really impressed with a lot of people and everyone that showed up that came and asked and made the most of that opportunity. So just want to throw that out there, because I get asked all the time, like, what do I need to do to try out? It's like, you just need to show up, like figure out how you're going to get out there to wherever your local pro team is, go out there and shoot more of them, and then you get shot and you'll get noticed, and someone will ask about, hey, want to come out somewhere? It's just the way it is. But he played decently well. I got to give it to most of them, because a lot of the guys on the team are like 1s and 2s. And some of them were forced to play in the back and we were put in positions by Nikki to really kind of expose them and break down how they play. We did a lot of drills, a lot of BKI stuff that, we have all the guys do. And it was good. But, I mean, no one came out there and was batting 100. Chris definitely played pretty well, but there were a few times, he got his I's dotted. And so, same with everybody else, which was good, though, because that's the one thing you definitely want to test for. It's just the adversity. I can't say it.
Adversity.
Adversity. I want to say adverse. I'm going to try to mix the two words. You want to see that, and
some adversity in the anniversary.
Yeah, it was the anniversary of the adversity. But you want to see that. Excuse me, I'm losing it. That's stuff you want to see because you want to see how people handle things under pressure, and then I never went to an actual official tryout for any pro team. But I can remember as soon as I learned to kind of just let things go and just play paintball more carefree with the aftershock guys, that's when I got better and I had more success. And then Jeremy actually asked me like, hey man, you want to come out and play some more or play with us instead of playing against us? Hey, Frankie Bag of Donuts, go take a seat. Nick, take a spot. And I got to go out there and run some points. Oh yeah. But I'm excited. There's a lot of potential. And again, aside from Hank and I, everyone is in California. I think Kaito's in Vegas, so he's a 4 or 5 hour drive away. So it's awesome. These guys are going to be able to go out to the park and just practice and play, which you're doing this weekend. Yeah,
no, it's good. I'm glad you picked up some of those guys. I'm interested to see how some of these other dudes are doing, and I'm glad you guys did a lot of drills to expose some weaknesses in practice. That's good when you do a tryout. I remember going out to that tryout where you guys picked up Peyton, and right before you guys won Vegas, when Todd hit me and Davey up, and he's like, "Hey, I need some of the old Ironman dudes to just come out and yell at these kids for a half day or however long you'll stay. Please just come out and go over to one side, like the guys that are already on the team essentially." And I'm like, look, these dudes out here want to take your spot. And so let's just play some nasty, aggressive paintball. And then I go over to the other side, the guys that are trying out. I'm like, look, no one gives a shit about you guys until you come out and make your presence known here. All we care about is aggressive paintball. Go and take one of these dudes' spots. And I'm, cussing up a storm and just kind of doing the same shit that Shane Pestana used to do to us back in the day. And, the axe is sharp and go take someone's spot and, die going for it. I know it's all that good old stuff, but worked out for you guys. And so it's going to be one of the more compelling stories here because always every year a team comes up from the semi-pro division and a team goes down, and as we kind of go through some of these other squads, you guys are going to be, it's a big test, there's not a lot of starters left from last year. I do like some of those names that I've heard. Those guys are hungry and good. I don't know some of those other names. So like my biggest question is who's going to be the number one threat on the snake side for you guys? Is that still to be determined, or do you kind of have a couple guys that you feel like that's their spot? It is good that you're telling me that mostly you're picking up 1s and 2s, because with you and Al on the squad, you don't really need a ton of, 2s, like most, if you go 2 and 3 heavy, that would be more scary. The fact you're picking up a lot of 1s and then you have a bunch of options for just, because all you really need is just a couple of them to be able to solidify their status and go off. What do you think? Snake side attacker. Who's the threat? I'm playing the Ironman. Who am I worried about right now?
Who are you worried about? All of us. Duh. 5 guns up off the break. Duh. They're all dead. G5. Come on. I had Rich Telford in my head with that. I could just hear Rich announcing with you. Oh my gosh. I get Kaito, Alex. I know between Nick, Hunt, and Clay. That's the beauty of it, is like all of them are ambidextrous in what side they like to play. You get the Doritos or the snake. So it's just going to be, like you said, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a test for all of us. It's just going to be getting out there and running the guys through the layout and seeing who kind of rises up to the occasion and can dominate that, depending on what the layout actually is going into this first event, which drops in 6 days, 4 days.
Yeah. We'll just real quick, let's talk about your bracket. and because one of the cool stories about last year was how obviously, legends were prevailing. I mean, I literally just finished recording the intro for World Cups for 4 Sundays, right before we jumped on to the show. But one of the compelling stories from last year was the fact that Level, after a tailspin, completely outmatched and looking garbage in the beginning of the year, then they all just like a turnkey little slice of greatness came out of Level, just out of the blue. And after beating Heat, they go in undefeated at that third event, and yeah, they got blown out on Sunday, but and then heading into Cup, but still went 2-2 at Cup. They beat Thunder, they beat Energy Elite by 3, lost Damage by 1, and then got blown out by Impact. So Level had a pretty cool year last year. Uprising did make a Sunday. ML Kings looked really good in Florida at the World Cup. And they kept most of their squad together. I'm going to try to get one of the guys from ML Kings on the show to talk about things, but, is kind of seeing, and then Energy Elite also made a Sunday. So one of the big stories last year was that a lot of these teams got better. AC Diesel goes down. The Hurricanes are kind of coming up. So in your bracket, and then, DMG continuing to lose bodies, but
AC Dallas goes down.
Yeah. So AC Dallas goes down. Diesel.
Okay. You said here. Diesel, and I was like, what did I miss?
Did I? Sorry. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, Diesel still very much a pro team. I like Diesel's hopes this year. They savagely underperformed towards the end of the year with a 14th and an 11th. Started off with a 6th and a 10th. Big fan of Mark and Diesel. Definitely still a pro team. Dallas, yeah, they lost all their starters and then brought up some divisional dudes and they couldn't make it. So that's what's at stake here in the pro division. It is difficult. Let's look at your bracket. It's going to be Level, like we just talked about. And Pando says that I asked him. I said, "How's your team look right now?" He says, "Kind of like breakout-ish. I think like we might be able to be a breakout team." Is that a thing? I was like, I don't know. You tell me, bro. Is that a thing?
I love Dave.
Are you guys going to break out this year? Kind of broke out last year a little bit, but so you got Level, you got DMG, you got Damage, who underperformed a ton last year as well, in the sense that they had 2 11th place finishes in a row. So the fact that Damage didn't make a Sunday for 2 events in a row, I mean, we got to go way back to find another occurrence of that. But then they did take 7th at Cup, took 3rd at the first event last year, picked up Lackey. I was talking to Joey. We're going to get Joey on a show here too. He was maybe going to come on with us today, but couldn't make it. But he feels pretty confident. Joey shoots it straight, right? I mean, if Joey didn't think, when it's just Joey and I texting or talking on the phone and he didn't really like their chances, he would tell me. He'd be like, "Yeah, dude, Matty, everyone's just getting fat and lazy, and we're trash. And I'm gonna try to pull us out of this tailspin, brother. But I don't know if that's gonna happen because it's just so pathetic and everyone's so fat and lazy." Like that's Joey, right? That if Joey really thought that's what Joey would tell me. But he said that he thinks that everyone seems to be as motivated as he's ever seen them, and he's pretty excited about their chances. I mean, he's pretty stoked on Damage. And then Infamous. So let's go back and kind of start with DMG and Level because they're ranked below you guys. You're sitting on that 3rd tier in Group B. Level, DMG. Start with DMG. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know what to think. I think I have all the confidence in the world that the team will beat them. I couldn't tell you what changes they've made. I think there's one of their guys they lost. George McLean is now playing with NYX. So they lost one guy publicly, but I mean, who's heard any news out of that camp? I don't know. They struggled last year, but they also, I think they beat us once or twice. So, and we found ourselves, I think we played them in Diesel quite a few times last season. So, to be honest, like, I don't know. Like part of me just wants to be just brash and go like, I don't care, because I have like the team, the Ironmen have enough work cut out we have enough work cut out for ourselves that I'm not really worried about what the other teams are. I don't care. Like, I know the vast majority of pros, I know how they play and I know their tendencies, and it's going to be my job as a leader on the team to drill that into my guys' heads so they know what to expect and can and can pick up that pace and know how to play and keep their composure and just do a good job of becoming a better team and working on that chemistry and playing well. So, if I don't know, I don't have anything, I guess, really to say much about DMG about level. I mean, they, just like you said, they surprised a lot of people. I think one of the testaments to that team is just those guys all being local and being to play together, and that's ultimately what the goal is for the Ironmen now, with all of our pickups being in California. I think it might be a slow start for us at the beginning of the year, but the more the guys can get together and practice multiple weekends in a row, whether it just be one day or two, and use the resource that is Dye in Victory Paintball Park to practice, then we should do, vastly better. When it comes to damage, did they struggle last year? Sure. But on paper, all those guys have won, maybe say for Lackey coming in now, championships. They've won series. They've won titles. So why did they do bad last year? I don't know. That's been the question that we've all asked ourselves, and Joey does shoot it straight, but I'm not going to take the time to I'm not going to Matty Marshall it and you're like, hey, why did you guys do bad? Like, look, that's not my worry. And if that's in their head, that helps us out better, but those guys are seasoned veterans. And that the last thing I think that they're worried about is that their what do you want to call it? Image from last year. Joey can help them put the work in and do better.
Well, they also picked up Mikey Waring, another dude who we mispronounced his name for a long time. Yeah, it's a really smart pickup. But yeah, so with Waring, I thought he had the best look we've ever seen him have on the Russians last year. I mean, he was basically forced into a situation where he was on Mutiny, and Mutiny was really pissed off that he decided to take the option to play with the Russians. It's just really hard sometimes, depending on, again, where you're at in your career. But, he had committed to Mutiny, and then the Russians call. And when you get a legendary team like the Russians to give you a call, sometimes it's really hard to say no, depending on where you're at. Anyway, Mutiny was pissed.
Hey,
Mikey
Zach Hill committed to Diesel and left for Impact. So there's people do
it's just that,
whatever people want to do.
Well, yeah. So exactly. It's, again, life's short, dude. You don't get trust me, I attest to it. You don't get a long time to do this thing. It may seem as you're doing it that it is, and it can be a long time, but it all ends eventually. And when you look back, you just have whatever story you have to tell yourself and other people about your cool adventure you went on, and hopefully it's a good one. So it is what it is. I'm not saying don't be loyal. I mean, I pretty much never took any of the, options of, Avalanches or any of the other teams that wanted me to go, Images that wanted me to go play for them. I never took any of those options and played basically with the same group of dudes from the 1998 on until I retired from Excessive. But that being said, I totally understand Mikey, doing what he did and to take these different options and have a really cool story. And he had a hell of a year. It was a big moment for Mikey Waring last year. He's going to be the main attacker for the Russians all year long because they can't get guys over, no cars left for them. And, they couldn't really get anyone else. So he ended up being their main attacker, and he was playing with some legends out there, and they didn't have a bad year. They had one stumble at the third event, taking that 13th place, but a fourth, a fifth, and then a sixth at Cup. Not bad for the Russians, considering how much they had to deal with, not with no coaching, not their full coaching staff, and didn't have some of their best guys, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's going to be good for damage in your guys' division. But yeah, it's a strong team.
Well,
you got something for me?
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where I can try to draw something out of that, right? And was it when he got on damage and he had that point against Heat? Where were we? He shot all 5 guys, right? Ran all the way down the field, and that was like one of the things that really put him on the roadmap to get that highlight clip, right? And then leaves damage, the Mutiny thing, whatever. But he plays on the Russians and he stands out because he has to. Like, that's the test. Like, you're being picked up you've accepted this position to play in this role, and this is what we have to do. And you have to follow the instructions that are given to you and make the most of it, playing with a squad that's half speaks Russian, half speaks Spanish. I don't know. They were a mix of everything this past year. Now, though, he goes back. He goes to Damage, who he's played for and has some history with. So the question is, what's going to happen? How is it? That's where. Talk about Alex Keys. I wanted to hate him playing because we practiced against him so much on Aftermath, and he was predictable. but looking at how he played the 2 weekends we had him out in California, I really appreciated just being able to sit there and watch him play. And maybe it just had to do with not having the pressure of him then standing on the hill yelling at you if you messed up or if you didn't do something right. But he did some predictable things that he's done in the past, but he also did some really good things that made him stand out and earned him that spot on the squad. And those are the thing, that's like the parallels job, remove some pressures that you'd have in the past and being allowed to play more freely or more openly, and then switch him up again. Now how is he going to do on that squad? I don't know, but that's a good story to follow Mike to see through damages here through the last few seasons. How's he going to play? And that's where I'm interested too with Keys and a few other individuals in the league.
Yeah, that's why I still like doing this. There's just so many compelling stories. And yeah, I think Mikey Waring's story is going to be pretty compelling because, we always talk about an embarrassment of riches on some of these top teams, but Damage has a lot of killers now on their D side. So it's going to actually be hard for Joey to figure out who's going to start over there because Chad Bougere, who was kind of back and forth, and so was Dan Holiday, but Chad played the snake a little bit, but Chad was, I thought, again, one of their standout guys. In the twilight of his career, just still looking like he was just savage and nasty out there. And then Jacob Edwards also, he goes off quite a bit too. So between Chad and then Jacob, and then now they get Mikey back. And I had to go double check because I was pretty sure that he wasn't. So during that stumble that the Russians had, that 13th place they took at the third event, Mikey wasn't there. He couldn't make that event. So he only played 3 events with them. So that he was there and the first attacker on the D side for their 4th place, their 5th place, and their 6th place finish. So it's going to make them a little bit more versatile for Damage. And let's move on to Infamous though, because I don't got you all night here, but and I got some of these other crazy stories that I want to talk to you about. But let's talk about Infamous. So yeah, obviously the team really well. You've been playing against Infamous for years. You've got a lot of friends on that squad. Your brother-in-law Cody, he plays on that team. So, what are your thoughts on Infamous? I mean, Infamous had a hell of a year last year. They were in the running, ended up taking, 2nd overall, not that far behind Dynasty. They were in the running for the series title, and they had a very consistent year. I mean, if you look at the blowouts that every top team had, Dynasty with the 10th place, Impact with the 10th, Heat not even making Sunday at the first event. X Factor had a 9th. The Russians had that 13th. They didn't make Sunday. Damage missed 2 Sundays. I'm just going down the list. Infamous, the worst they did was 8th. A 2nd and 8th, a 3rd and a 4th. That's pretty impressive. I really love what Travis has done to build that team. They're going to be a big threat this year. What are your thoughts on Infamous?
I think they're just gritty, man. And again, they've had a really good core. They lose Greg, but those guys, just because of their core group and their intelligence in paintball, they just know their roles and they play them well. It's one of those things too, where I think they're a fun team to play because when you're on the box and you see who's down there, it's really no secret on who on that team was going to do something maybe off the wall. Fry might do something a little here or there, but and again, also layout pending, but that's when that when you're lined up against them, how do I measure myself up, especially if it's a bunker where you're playing heads up against somebody. If I have to play against Cody, heads up, back center, or whatever. So that's kind of the fun part. But I think they're just gritty, and their cores played together for so many years now that they understand each other's body language, and Travis does such a great job dissecting the field and making people know what their jobs are, and they just do it. They've won. The majority of the guys on that team have won. Travis has won probably just about everything. So there's just that real clear understanding of what has to happen, and they've executed that time and time again, and just been super consistent. Probably, I mean, like you said, what X Factor took a 9th, so that means between X Factor and Infamous, those are probably one of the 2 teams that have made Sunday all year. And X Factor is, they're the rock when it comes to that case. So
That's it. Because everyone else, if you go all the way down, Dynasty made every Sunday as well too.
Okay. Dynasty,
but the Dynasty did win the series title. Obviously, look, you win the last 2 events. I mean, Dynasty's last 5 events have been World Cup victory, almost didn't make Sunday, 10th place, 3rd place podium, first. So 3 firsts and a 3rd in their last 5 events is just nasty considering they're on their 21st pro year ever. Yeah, just bust that shoulder off, you just goddamn genre-defining legends, you little savage beast, you. You still got it, boys. Congratulations. Yeah, I love them too. But yeah, Infamous was super consistent though, man. 2nd place overall, and I mean, a 2nd and 8th, a 3rd and a 4th. That's just nasty. And now the question there was, were they going to be able to get Greg Sewers back? And Greg, promised me throughout the season, he's like, Matty, this is it. I'm done. I don't have the spirit in me to go shoot pipe plates anymore. I'm like, dude, you're literally having maybe your best year ever, bro. Like, you're just still completely savage and elite. Look at you, and you still have a big chip on your shoulder. I'm like, Greg, I don't even think if you make one. If I was Travis and you can make one practice, I'd still bring you to the tournament. If you want to just make one practice, it's Greg. I would probably be down with that. And then also, Infamous has been throwing some money around trying to sign guys, so maybe give Greg a raise, and maybe that'll make him a little bit happier. Anyway, it didn't happen. They swore they were gonna be able to get him back. I went up to Northern California, talked to him a little bit about a month ago. And this is when they still were. Everyone's like, they're gonna get Greg back. They're gonna get Greg back. I'm like, Greg's like, nah, dude, it's not happening. So unless, I don't know. I mean, and I don't know. Unless all of a sudden, Travis
I don't think he's done. Well, I mean, even then, though, right? Like, Greg, even though he's played for a lot of teams, I don't know Greg to be that type of person that's motivated by money. I'm sure. Yeah, you get to some point, some number, and it's like, okay, well. Yeah, of course I'll do it. But, it takes a lot to recognize the mental state that you're in. And then just the life situation you're in to be able to step back and say, I'm not going to do this. Greg is one of the most consummate professionals there are. And, obviously he's got stuff going on where he's recognized that he needs to take a break and focus on other things or do other things. And I think if anything, all that's going to really do is, I don't think we could put money on this. Like, I don't know that he'll last the year not playing. I could see him coming back and playing at the end or maybe in the middle, or who knows? I don't know what'll happen. Maybe someone in Infamous gets hurt and he's just like, bro, okay, I'm in, Travis. I'll make the practices. I'll come and play, which absolutely you will take Greg and put him on the team. But I think it's just going to be a good break for him, and multiple pros and people throughout the years have taken a step back, and that fire has not died in Greg when it comes to competing at the highest level. It's just being kindled in a different direction, I guess. So we'll see. I don't think Greg's done.
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think he might be, because we'll see. I do agree with you, because when you see the way he played the game this year and how excitable he was and still chasing that dream of getting another pro win before he did right off into the sunset. But with the kid and his business and how busy he's been on that side of things, because I even asked him, I'm like, all right, you're retiring, but you're still going to play maybe like a 10-man event a little bit, right? You're going to play 10-man and you don't have to practice for that. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, how about big games? You want to come play a big game? And he just seemed that he was just burnt out, man, which I get it. He's been doing it for so long at such a high level. But I do agree that, because he's not even like, you think he's like 31? I could look it up, but he's
like 34, dude, 35,
33.
I don't know.
Bro.
Look, I think what it comes down to is the thing that has to be like admirable is that, look, if he is completely cutting it all out, and with how well his business is doing and just life, YOLO, man, you only live once. So let him figure this stuff out. Let him see what it's like to completely remove every aspect, essentially, of committing to playing paintball and training for it and practicing and going to events, and to focus on his business and make those both work. It's kind of the situation John Jackson was in. He never before this year had to travel out of state for a team. He's always played on a Texas team. He's always had to just maybe at most drive 4 hours. So, and just getting married, and his fiance, not being used to that and him being away from his store, his business. It was a lot for him. And, I know that's one of the reasons, whether he wanted me to say it or not, he just couldn't commit to playing this year, which is respectable, to be able to balance that out. So if in Greg's business, if he really wants to grow that, I know he wants to grow that where he wants to get it. He's making that choice to get rid of paintball, which is fine. That's just the way it is. Paintball's not going anywhere. So let him do that. Let him figure it out. Let him see where that takes him. And if, he gets to the point too, where he can delegate some of his duties and come back to paintball. I know Greg will. He's not done. Just like Drew Templeton saying he's retiring, and that guy's going out there and playing 10-man events and being an MVP and winning.
Yeah, Drew.
He
was so good. I'm retiring. Still, he was so good. Well, but that's the thing. But that's what I love about the 10-man that's out there as well too. And I mean, there's just so many different ways that you can play paintball. I mean, there are, there's a whole group of dudes, the San Diego Daggers, and like there's the, I play with the Dagger group when we go play 10-mans or big games. Chris Corsino and like Roy Richard and all the crazy Brandon Lamberson, all those crazy SoCal dudes. And then there's barbecuing and crushing beers in the parking lot and just go and play big games. And those guys play as much paintball as some pros, dude. They play it all the time. And then, play 10-man with Cap.
I'd argue they play more. They play more than some of the pros. That's the craziest thing when you pay attention, or I've been paying attention to some of the guys that are just playing the ICPLs, just 10-man. These guys are practicing 10-man. And you can go back and look at how some people who make it to the pro level and just decide, well, I don't have to practice anymore. They don't work quite as hard as they did to get there.
Not going to go well.
Quite a few of those people. It's not going to go well for you. Just treading water. That's one of the things you have to remember too. Is that there's always someone out there who's hungrier than you and working harder than you. But it's the crazy thing, like you said. We've all seen these guys. Hey, yeah. The difference is they're crushing beers in the parking lot and cooking out at the event. But yeah. God bless them. I'd be right there with them if I could.
Well, I mean, that's part of that's part of the game, man. I mean, in the intro for the World Cup intro for 4 Sundays, that's one of the things that I say, is that kind of talking, I'm just paraphrasing, but it's like, World Cup, just saying those 2 words will send a shiver down any paintball player's spine. It's the last battle of the year. For most, it's just a huge fun party with a little bit of paintball sprinkled in, but for a select few, that World Cup and your battles there, haunt the ghost. They're the ghosts that haunt the game, because it's either a giant inspirational positive signpost giving inspiration to the generations that will come, or like a warning tale, like about how treacherous and how hard this game can be. So it's but that whole point of that again is, it's like, for a lot of people that play paintball, it's not chasing the dream of even, sure, maybe you want to be competitive, but in your division. But and I've said this many times on the show, I will continue to say this until I'm no longer, able to breathe oxygen all day long. But is that, like, there's a lot of ways to do this, right? There's so many different ways to play paintball, and that's one of the special things about it. And I really do appreciate that about the game. So yeah, with Greg retiring, I agree with you that you could see that, dude, look, after all the paintball I watched and rewatched last year, Greg was insane last year. That was one of the, I've been watching that dude since he came up, and he was a little baby child and of a teenager. And so I've watched his whole career, and last year was arguably the best year he ever had. And I went and checked, 32 years old. So we're losing Greg in the prime of his life at 32, at the height of his powers. Will he stay away? I don't know. But so again, so we got to talk about.
I just texted him and told him he's playing. He's taking care of
it. But they picked up. So, but losing Greg for Infamous is huge. So who did they pick up? They got Tim Brusselback. So Tim Brusselback off a knee injury. He, wasn't a big part of aftermath last year because he was hurt. He was dealing with that. But Tim Brusselback, came out of DMG. He was a hyper aggressive guy, and then ended up on Impact and didn't get a ton of spins. When you're a snake guy and you have Mouse in front of you, it's kind of hard to shine, especially when Mouse is at the height of his career. And so he didn't really get a ton of spins out there. And, that's kind of the rub when you go to Impact. yeah, you're going to get a little bit of coin to play the game. You're a hired killer on the best team potentially of the year. You know, every year Impact's in the running for that. And before I let you go, I do want to discuss Impact's story, because I think you want to talk about compelling stories. Like, yeah, the Latin Saints has a very compelling story with all the superstars that they just gutted Impact. Got 2 dudes from the Ironmen, and that's a super compelling story. Superstar teams always are. What the hell is Impact going to do? And how are they going to answer with the guys they have? I like the moves that Dave made. We'll get to that in a second. We'll hit pause on that. But with Infamous here, again, in your bracket, this is the Ironman bracket, bracket B, is that, picking up Tim Brusselback. I think Brusselback could potentially have a standout year, man. He was impressive enough again to get the call from Impact, which means you're really good at this game. And he can be a huge threat. He's very athletic. He can be very aggressive. And so, but, Greg was typically playing D side. And then Brusselback, typically a snake player. Harrison Fry was a huge standout for them. Man, dude, talk about one of the best players I got to see last year as far as his development. Harrison Fry is becoming an elite killer. Doesn't matter what side of the field he's on. Some of his best points were in the snake. Third event, third event, even though they took the 3rd place, like Harrison was very impressive in the snake. And they can kind of put him anywhere. So he's a huge threat for Infamous.
It just comes down to, with the losing Greg, picking up Tim, where Travis wants to put people and them executing, which is what that team has done. And that's why they did so well and were so consistent last season. So I think this opens up the door for Fry to play the number 1 on the Doritos and be more consistent over there. And then it's just working out that dynamic duo between Tim and Thomas on the snake side and plugging those holes.
Well, and Patient.
Shift.
And Hall.
Well, Zach too. Zach, yeah. Well, I mean, again, there's, those weapons, and that's on Travis to decide where he wants to deploy his troops and the layout, which he's done very well thus far. So that would be the thing that I'd pay attention to, just to see the combinations of players and how they do, and then how to exploit that.
Yeah. So let's. No, yeah,
let's talk about Impact pillaging other teams.
Well, Impact got pillaged this year. Impact got impacted.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny to me. It's funny, kind of like just in the getting older and watching how things happen and talking to people, but how people were like, "Oh, it's about time Impact got taken," and it's like, I don't know, did they, like, the guys who left? What's their history? Where have they notoriously gone? And why? So, like, nothing against, except say for Spica, right? But Mouse and A-Rod are notoriously known for going wherever they're going to get the most money, being paid. They're hired guns. That's just the way it is. Or maybe that's just my opinion. And I don't think that's wrong. I think you should play a whole season with your team, A-Rod, and not leave in the middle of it or before the last event's being played. But, in what the Saints ownership organization has done in offering money, it's going to attract people. Do I think that they're a superstar squad? I think they've got 6 pros and we don't know who else is on the team. And based on the pictures from X Factor, they've got a lot of work cut out for them. Would I call them a superstar squad? Not just yet. I think they've got some big names, but I think, again, too, the chemistry. There's a lot of Chiefs in that squad. There's going to be a lot of clashing personalities. And I think that was one of the things, too, that set Impact apart with some of those same personalities, is that they knew, along with Dave and Bart, they knew how to mold that and focus it, and they did really well. So as long as Dave and even Bart to this point, which I think they're relaxing some of the restrictions on travel between Canada and the US. I think as long as Bart can get out more and work with the guys and talk to them, I think they'll do okay. But I guess the funniest part to me is just the domino effect of guys going from one squad to the other.
Well, I've had a lot of long conversations this offseason with a lot of different people. And I think that Dave's head is in the right place based on what happened. when you are an Impact, if you are a team that is willing to pay dudes money and you're willing to snipe guys from other squads, and I mean, hey, that's how this game is. At the highest level, you have to have somebody recruiting. Whether whoever it may be, look at even you got Randy. I love Randy Smith, and I love the family. They're always about, we kind of joke sometimes, like people like, oh, family this or family that. But if you hang out with the Heat team, like the Heat squad, they very much are about family, and that they haven't really lost or made too many moves. So Nico decided to retire to work on Enjoy Paintball. And then you have, basically no other moves that have been made except grabbing Tyler. Then they, cut Sergey. But, anyway, so there just hasn't really been, and I'm talking like years now. So multiple years. And then they get a coach of Todd. So not a lot of moves. Hold on just real quick. I'm going to set this out, and then I'll give you a question. But Heat doesn't. So Heat is willing to play the game, but even on a team that doesn't make a ton of moves, you still got Chad Boucher out there, man, and like Chad Boucher is going to be talking to players. Hey, man, you happy over here? How you feeling? You feeling good? Like, you need a guy that's willing to do and play that game. And then so whether it's Infamous or Dynasty or X Factor, everyone has their own way of playing that side of the game. But with Impact, you kind of I think Dave was totally of rational mind while this was going down. When I talked to him, I mean, he was kind of more of like, okay, well, this has happened and now we need to make some moves and replace these guys that have left. He wasn't like gutted by the situation. Like, I just can't believe these traitors would leave. Can you believe this? We've done all this for all these guys, giving them all this money and all this respect and all this opportunity none of that came out of Dave's mouth. When it's just me and Dave talking, Dave didn't say any of those things. He was, he understood what the deal is. And so, and he was, and he's like, I'm thinking about this guy. I'm thinking about that guy. What do you think? That sort of stuff. I mean, he was very rational about the whole situation, about who he could retain, who he couldn't retain, what the situation was. And I really like, Axel Godin and Zach Hill. Zach Hill is an underrated killer. Huge fan of Zach Hill. And Axel Godin, a little bit of an unknown, like super recently, because we haven't seen him in a while. But Axel Godin in the past 10 years is one of the best Snake players I've ever seen play, based on what I've seen out of Axel, so and unless he got hit by a car in the offseason at some point in time, like he's 5 foot nothing and 100 nothing. He can do a standing backflip off a tree trunk that's 10 feet in the air and land it perfectly. Like he's insanely athletic, perfect Snake size. And again, unless he got just smashed by a car, like he's probably going to show up, and it may take him a little bit, maybe a practice or two, but he will be up there running reckless with the best elite Snake threats in the game, just like he has for the past 10 years. So I like that pickup, So anyway, so the thing I wanted to throw to you is, based on what you've seen, I mean, do you think the Impact will still be a top team this year?
Well, where's the bar for top?
Top five. Top five.
I think it'll be a slower start for them. Again, it's just going to be getting in the guy Zupa and Darula. Again, I think the one thing they have going for them is that all those guys are high-level guys and understand the game. There's no rookies that they're picking up. Zach would be I think the least experienced guy in the squad. So as long as they all get together and, Dave and hopefully Bart can, again, just, hey, this is what we have to do. This is the job. Right down the field. Let's be constructive. Let's have some constructive practices. I don't know that I've heard or seen of that team getting together. If they had a practice as a squad together, I don't know. Almost every other team has. If not one or this weekend.
It's this weekend because I was trying to get Zach Hill also. So we'll get Zach here on the show as well too. But I was trying to get Zach with us on this show today, but he's flying out for their first practice. So that's apparently happening this weekend. And then Ryan Greenspan is with Bart in, so then Maui. Ryan Greenspan's with Bart out in Maui. So I know he's able to get out of Canada. So, but I'm with you on that because I think that the mix, the mix of Bart and Dave together has proven to be a successful producer of greatness. And with this new crop of people that they have, they've lost some heavy hitters. They've lost some Golden Barrel Award winners, and the Saints have done an amazing job of shaking things up at the top end to make 2022 fascinating and incredibly compelling as a fan. But I do, Darula is a stud. Zupa is a stud. Zach Hill, I know a lot of people don't know Zach Hill yet, but Zach Hill is a stud. And again, Axel Godin is one of the best Snake players I've seen play in the past 10 years. So I think that's a huge fit. I totally agree with you. That is, everyone has to find their, and then the people they still have on the team, man. Like if JC and Brandon Cornell play the way that they did last year, I mean, dude, those guys went off. Matt Jackson, he's a Golden Barrel Award winner. He's elite. Nick Laval, he's absolutely nasty. I mean, that team is still that team has a lot of killers on that squad. It's just they've got a new vibe to find. They just lost a bunch of dudes.
Is there any word on the Canadians? Zane, Zach, JC?
Yes. So Zach is this is coming from Dave, but Zach is going to be there on a much more regular basis. And Zach Yakimek, I don't know about Zane, but I know Zach is going to be there. And Zach Yakimek is an MVP caliber guy. He's won an MVP award before. Zach Yakimek is not on the team because he's the son of the dude that owns the team. Zach Yakimek is a goddamn beast out there on his best days. So yeah, I mean, if Zach's motivated and he's going to be there for practice, that's going to be a big part of it too, to kind of, again, instill that culture, having those, like you sticking around with the Ironman. I'm so glad. And I do kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about this too, before I let you go.
Sure.
But I'm just so glad that the Ironman kept you around and that you decided to stay. It's not them keeping you around, but it's you deciding to stay. Cause you definitely are a guy that gets offers. You could have gone to, I know, I was joking about the $500,000 offer from the Latin Saints that you turned down, but there's some other stuff out there that you could have chosen a different route. You could have decided to step off with the, as things got gutted in the off season and decided to take another adventure, another road, but you didn't. Anyway, so having you around is going to be good for the Ironman. Having a Zach Yakimek be able to come back is also going to be key. And then getting JC, who was so big, man. And Brandon had some big points for him last year too. And then Matt is nasty. So Dave definitely has enough firepower to win an event. It's just because they had so much change, it's having to get everyone to buy into the culture, to learn the vibe and to believe in it. And, so I don't know if they're like you. I do agree it might get off to a little bit of a slower start. I think they know that too. And anytime I have conversations behind the scenes with guys, and I would say this to the Latin Saints too, I did say it to some of them, I'm like, hey, if things don't go well right away, try not to slit each other's throats and beat each other up. Like, it's just, this is a process and it takes time. Same thing for you guys.
And that's, that's true. I get for a lot, like between Impact, us, and the Saints. I mean, that's, if you look at the fluctuation of players, I mean, that's going to be the testament, right? How quickly can you, again, build up and get comfortable with each other and get in a groove. So that's going to be the test. I think with Impact, if they do have Zach and JC are going to be there all year, again, like you said, with Matt, Nick, Brandon, it's going to be good. But, that's, again, I hope that Bart's out there. I think that he is a huge part of that team and his perspective and his wisdom and his knowledge of the game and how he motivates those guys to play along with Dave. And they've done a great job all year. And they picked up people, those guys. And, it's just going to be, that's just the exciting part going into the first event, is just to see how people perform against the other squads in their bracket and how they handle that anniversary.
Yeah, that the anniversary of adversity. So if you look at the first bracket though, Group A, you always talk about, or we always talk about, oh, bracket of death this or bracket of death that. And some people are like, oh, you say this is going to be the bracket of death, but this one over here, that one is the one that ended up being the bracket of death. I'm like, oh, you're not wrong. We don't know necessarily who's going to step up, especially if you get a group, a bottom ranked team to step up and all of a sudden start crushing people and go undefeated in the prelims, like level. Okay. Yeah. Then, and if all of a sudden a top team starts sucking in the prelims, then things could get complicated and convoluted real quick. But when you look at this Group A, it does look particularly disgusting because you have Dynasty, X Factor, Revo, Energy Elite, and the Latin Saints all in one bracket. So, and again, if you're just joining Paintball, thank you guys or girls for joining us. You got the whole, the girls are going to be playing this year too. It's going to be great. It's watching the ladies play some X-Ball, but it's a whole nother conversation for another time. We're going to be having some of them come on as well. Love the shades. Nice work. But in this bracket, so in a bracket, you got 20 total pro teams, 2 move on per bracket. And that gives you 8. And then you get 2 more wild card teams. They come in, and then if you play in the wild card round, you have to win 4 games on Sunday in order to win the event. That has happened twice before. It is possible. It's very difficult. So out of this bracket, I'm not going to ask you about your bracket, but Dynasty, X Factor, Revo, Energy Elite, Latin Saints. Obviously, Dynasty just won a ridiculous amount of tournaments in the past 5 events. 3 events out of the past 5. The last two World Cups. X Factor, though, is who they beat in those final matches. So X Factor also super amazing and dialed in, and that's a whole nother conversation about kind of the new look. They lost Archie. I think that actually could be really good for them. And then we got Revo, Energy Elite, Latin Saints. So gun to your head, Nick, who are the 2 teams that are advancing out of this as the number 1 and 2 seed?
Dynasty and X Factor. X Factor and Dynasty.
You think so? So you think the Latin Saints will struggle enough that that they'll have to catch that wild card berth?
I think the one thing, again, and this is, I mean, maybe just would make logically in my head makes sense, is that you've got 2 squads who, like you've said, have played against each other, Dynasty and X Factor, in the last 2 World Cups, first and second place team, right? X Factor, probably the most consistent team in a long time, just making Sunday and playing well. So you take those 2, there's history there. X Factor loses Archie to Dynasty. They pick up Parrish from our squad. And then you look at the Saints and you look at a handful of those guys who've played with Dynasty. There's just history there between those 3 teams. So I think the one thing that's really going to hurt the Saints is the fact that we don't know who their pro guys are. We don't know who anyone else is. We don't know how much they're playing. But when they play against a Dynasty and X Factor, it just all comes down to how are those guys? How's Brandon Short going to handle all those guys in the pit? If someone gets in each other's heads, Rainey is good at getting everyone's head. You know what I mean? And getting into people, and the games that all those guys have had are great. So I think that's the advantage that both Dynasty and X Factor have over the Saints, in that they just have a core group of guys. They've just flopped 1 player each, essentially. I don't know. I think Dalton, I don't know if he's going to play the first event, but if he is or he isn't, it doesn't really matter. It's just that those 2 squads are rock solid, whereas the Saints are just being put together. So that's a disadvantage. And it's not like those 2 others, the Dynasty and X Factor, don't know how the guys on that team will play. They've played with them or against them the last 10, 15 years. So I don't know that there's really any kind of surprise there. And that's just the biggest edge that those 2 teams have. And so that's why I would give them first and second, just because of the consistency that they've had and the foundation that's already been built. They are built, and they are running on all cylinders. The Saints aren't.
Yeah, I mean, have you?
But that's not a knock against them. That's just
no. Of course, yeah. I mean, it's a brand new team. I mean, if Diego, if you're listening to this, don't beat the guys up. Brandon, I'm sure Brandon knows how this goes, but don't beat each other up if you don't come out of the gates and look absolutely dialed at your very first event after assembling this brand new team. Because even though those guys have played with each other before and there's that mix there, things change, man. Like you put a new jersey on and got a new coach and a new leadership, and it just things change. No matter how much you want to think like, no, we got this and we can still, we've all played together. It's just that things just change a little bit. And we really haven't seen too many, quote unquote, superstar teams roll up and be successful immediately. It typically does take a little bit of time. Houston Heat, you were there for that, a little bit of an exception, as successful right away. So I've been down this road, you've been down this road. But yeah, it's difficult, man. I mean, it's going to be a really compelling story. So you're basically saying, because we've been talking about Dynasty, X Factor, and Latin States, you don't think that Revo or Energy Elite has a snowball chance in hell of making it out of that bracket?
It's not that they don't. There are surprises. I'm just going with, again, snap call based on just the history of both of all those teams in there. Could NRG, come out and surprise people like they have in the past? Sure. But again, it's just about the consistency and looking at who they're going up against and just that mental, all of these things, right, that you have to add into it. Like X Factor and Dynasty can practice all year round, and they have been. Both those squads have already had multiple practices together or having several other practices leading up to the first event. And again, they've had the least amount of change. And the people that they have swapped out are all winners. So you're taking winning players and swapping them and putting them on winning teams already. Okay. The Latin Saints, I mean, again, I don't know how much more we can jump into that. It's just, it's not like compared to Houston Heat was a full squad of 10 guys, save for, all of them. We'd all won. Ryan Smith, Woodley, and Dazan had just beaten Dynasty in 7-man. They'd play pro together. So you're taking a group of guys that from Heat are established pros. Saints don't have that. They have a mix. And I guess we don't know who they are. And they have yet to be tested. But then Revo, they lost 2 of their starters. They have their work cut out for them. And they just, again, they have to work in the new guys that they have, which are established and have played pro together. I'm excited to see how Raul Velez does. I'm excited to see how they would just pick up Greg.
Well, Revo actually lost three of their starters because they lost Frank back to Aftermath, and then they lose both Derula and Zupa, who go to and actually then 4 too, because they also lost Dan Zaleski to retirement. So it is a little
so then
bit
there
of
you
a
go.
tough
Like
situation
with what you said there, then like just this is a snap call. Like I want to have faith and believe that both those teams can do well, but like if we're just going to go through it and be blunt and just call it the way it is, then it's, for me, it's X Factor and Dynasty coming out, and there could be some upsets. Could NRG, being a squad that's played together well the last season, and upset some people? Could they come out and beat the Saints? Could they come out and beat Dynasty? Could they beat X Factor? Sure. I don't know when those teams play. Early morning game, again, historically, any team coming out of a winter where they can't play together as much or it's cold and you can't play outside, they don't do that well. Shock. We never did that well in the beginning of the year, ever. So those are just the small things. So, I mean, just to cut and dry, black and white, it's just Dynasty and X Factor, and could other things happen? Sure. But, if I'm betting, it's those 2 teams come out of it.
Last set of questions before I let you go, Nick. Actually, before we jump into this last question, I do want to talk about this new potential leadership role you have here with the Ironmen or Die. Like, how is this kind of going down? I mean, I do have all human beings have bias, whether you want to admit it or not. And yeah, I'm a little biased towards the Ironmen because, for Christ's sake, dude, I was on the team for a while. We were successful. It's one of the, when I was brought up.
We'll get you one, Matty. You wear the shield again.
Yeah. I should have actually, God damn it. I have my World Cup victory from 2000 jersey around. I have some like dope jerseys from back in the day, which you could buy for $5,000. I wanted to steal the one that Darren
had. Deal.
But anyway, so I really don't want the Ironmen to suck. I want them to do well. So anytime that there's a mass exodus of players, it kind of scares me because I don't want that legacy to tarnish. And so I was really happy that you did decide to stay around. And so talk to me a little bit about that. Are you going to take a bigger role with the squad, the company? Like, what's going on over there with you? Because I know you've had some really cool like Dye Lab stuff to sell, which you can purchase. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you tell everyone where they can go buy that?
I got some, just hit me up. I got some barrels. This actually said to spoken for. I've got some other ones coming out, some collabs with some other people in the industry, players and companies alike I've worked with. But the one thing that kind of stood out to me, or that I've paid attention to, because it was part of my job working for GI, and just because I'm passionate about paintball, is just the evolution of where Dye has been. I started out, everything was Dye on Aftershock when I came into it, and watching them in blue and the Ironmen in red. It was an inspiration to want to be part of that squad and use Dye products because they were the best and still are the best, of course. You can see behind me over my shoulder, I have an awesome lineup of products tucked away. But I mean, it's just kind of sad where it's kind of gone. And, I understand the reasonings behind it or how some things have evolved the way they have. And it's to me at this point, it's just a waste of time to waste any more emotion in what it was. And it's time to change the perception and show people how it actually is, and there's a great group of people that believe in that too. Billy Wing and Chris and Dave. And Dave is, when you made the comment about you and I think Eric Roberts and a few of the other guys coming out to that one practice that Todd asked you to come out to. Dave is at every practice and he talks to the guys and he has some really cool shit to say. And I wish at those moments I could take my phone out and record, but I'd get in trouble because I'm not paying attention. But there's definitely a more focused mission to just show how great Dye is. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to push, both through the Ironman and then just Dye in general with teams and the products. Arguing with people, why the eye pipe's stupid. I'm like, well, do you have to take eye covers off? No, I can just pull my eye pipe out and clean it and put it back in. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to the techs. So there's a few things that just need to get swapped around. And the hope with that too is just marketing the guys that are local and showing that the team is self-sustainable. It's one of the greatest names in paintball, with one of the greatest histories and longest running histories that there is, which is fun because Dave came out to practice and actually told us the story Saturday night about the split between Bob and the team. And it was just it was a really, really cool moment to hear some of the stories that Dave has said. But yeah, there's greatness there and there's a legacy, and it's one of the things that I believe in. It's one of the things I believed in with Aftershock. I've the team part of Heat and creating that, and what some of those guys, what Chad Boucher has done and Ronnie has done, what some other guys have done with other teams. I think that's one of the big things that Dye has lacked, and it's one of the reasons why I've wanted to stay, because I believe in building that up. And I think it's just been complete utter bullshit about what's happened to the squad over 2 years. Like, I feel cheated because of COVID, of how much potential that the squad had. And it's going to take a lot more than just people leaving for me to just be like, yeah, I'm going to call it quits, because I know there's potential there and I believe in it. And I know that Dave and the rest of the organization at Dye believe in it too. And again, where I'm at in my career and my life and all the things I have going on, I want to see that be better for the next group of guys that come in, which essentially the handful of guys coming in now, they're going to be the future, and there's many more out there that'll take up that mantle of wearing the shield. Or I want to be able to lay a better foundation in some cornerstones for those guys to be able to go through. And so that's my main drive, to push more products, to show what Dye can do with their ultralight series, with their markers, with the DSR Plus, the M3, with the R2, and just get those in the hands of people with the mech frame coming out. Like, there's a lot of exciting things going on, and I'm happy to be here and be part of it.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear, man, because it was getting a little scary. And yeah, if you look back on it with COVID, who knows what would have happened with the Ironman if COVID didn't never hit. If we didn't have the COVID, that's a really
2020 series champs, baby.
Yeah, that's a really good kind of counterfactual alternative history what if situation. Last question before I let you go here, Nick. So out of the bottom ranked teams, because again, you guys are going to be dealing with a rebuild here. And I think that the no bullshit assessment is, I would be, if I was your coach or, was talking to anybody on the team, I will definitely say this to anyone I am talking to, like the same thing Mike Himman told his guys. This is incremental levels to excellence here. But in order to even get to excellence, we need to have competence first. So the very first thing is, don't finish last. That's the very first thing I would say to everyone. You're on a rebuild. Do not finish last. Stay out of the cellar. Let's be relevant enough to be around. And, I would tell everyone, you're wearing a shield on your back that's 35 years old, something like that. I would have to go back and count, but it's a very old name. It's a legendary name. It's been through multiple incarnations of championships. Wear it with pride and go out there and let's not suck. We need again, show competence so that we can actually get to the point where we can exhibit excellence on Sunday. So don't and Mike Himman said that to his guys. He's like, dude, we're coming off. We almost got relegated. Aftermath almost got relegated. Oh, hell no, dude. We're not finishing last. That's it. So that's step one. Step one, don't finish last. And then step two, let's try to make some Sundays. And then, we'll go from there. And I thought that was a very honest assessment from Mike. Last year, they made 3 Sundays, 9th, 4th, 12th, 8th. Anyway, so we're looking at these bottom ranked teams here. We don't really know what the Hurricanes have to bring. The Thunder Bears is a new incarnation. ML Kings were very impressive at the last event. They made a Sunday. And then with DMG, we don't know what DMG. Obviously, Columbus level was slightly impressive. Uprising is all over the place. Who knows? But, based on, who do you think is going, other than you guys, which you guys aren't even ranked that far down. You're sitting at 12th right now. But again, with this rebuild, you guys have a lot to prove. So taking you guys out of the equation, who do you think is going to be the best lower ranked team? When I say lower ranked, I mean under, from 11th on. Is it going to be the Thunder Bears, Energy Elite, Level, Uprising? New York Extreme is down there at 14th. They did not have a good year last year. The Hurricanes are brand new. We have no idea. We've seen them a tiny bit. We don't really know what they're going to bring.
Level and Energy.
Really? Okay. Level. You think Level and Energy are going to be better than Uprising and DMG and
yes,
and New York Extreme?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. All right, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. You saw the flashes of greatness throughout the season last year, and there's no reason why that should be diminished going into this season. So it's just a matter of those guys recognizing why that happened, building off of it, continuing to practice as two solid squad, as each squad respectively together, and going from there. And again, those are core groups of guys that are all pretty much local, that know each other and have come up through the divisional ranks and played well. So yeah, why wouldn't they? That's the story that you want to hear. I mean, are they going to win an event this year? I don't know about that. Could they? Sure, anyone could win. But I think, again, it's those small goals you set inside of big ones, right? Ultimately, you want to win the tournament, right? You want to win the series. You want to win the season. But you want to win the tournament, or you want to make Sunday, or you want to win your first game. You want to win your first point. You want to set that. And so Robbie Goldsmith does a great job with Level. I could see his face. Chris Jansen does a great job with the Energy guys. And as long as they keep trucking and keep working towards those goals, I'm assuming that they have them, I think they're going to surprise people. They're definitely going to upset good teams and win games. And then with that being said, just get more consistent and make those Sundays. So yeah, out of all those teams you've listed, the bottom half of those 10, those are the two I'd pick without a doubt.
Display competence so we can get to a point where we can prove our excellence. That's what every low-ranked team needs to be thinking right now. Because
you see that on a bumper sticker?
No, I just made that shit up right now, Doc.
Okay, I was waiting.
No, bro. Just came fresh from the mind. No, I think that no, I'm with you on that. I think that having so Level didn't make any changes. I think they did drop a body to some sort of retirement or something, but that they're still going to be the Level we saw last year. And then with Energy, they lost Lackey though. But I think they're also going to be. And I feel Alan's been trying to pay somebody for a while, just trying to get somebody to get a pro. Hasn't got any bites yet. Yeah, he's been trying to do it for years. So we'll see. But the thing is that you need to do a little bit better than one Sunday and a 13th overall, with a 15th, a 15th, a 7th, and a 16th to, a position on your team needs to be coveted, even if you're throwing money at people. So anyway, it's going to be an interesting year. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting to see what's going to happen with the Los Angeles Ironmen. Obviously, I wish you guys the best. Keep me updated. And best of luck with all that extra cool products you guys are making on the side. Where can people find those or more information about the squad and everything?
Well, so the squad is
other than your Instagram page.
Yeah, Greg said, "Sweet, glad someone told me." So you see, he's playing. He's playing. I told him. Through me right now, there is a Team Ironman website that we're going to be releasing products on hopefully soon. But right now, you can just kind of hit me up, and I'll direct you. Whether it's pretty much just through me. Yeah, I'm the guy. Just talk to me. Need barrels? Talk to me. You need jerseys? Talk to me. You need it all. Anything from dye, I can get you. And that Greg text just kind of threw me off. I love it.
You're doing this. You're doing the sponsor shout out right now. That's where we're at. We're
yeah. So, I mean, essentially just Dye Labs, the program that Dye has set up. I mean, even if you want to do something yourself, like it doesn't have to be an Ironman branded thing. You can go and create from the ground up M3 Plus marker, which hopefully translates into the DSR Plus coming out soon. But I've got a bunch of new barrels kits coming out, a bunch of tips, jerseys, both throwback designs. We're going to have to corner the market and make some Matty Marshall OG Ironman jerseys with the shield on the back. You can get some remakes of those. Hit up Matty. You know what I mean? So there again, there's the legacy there and the potential to make stuff through Dye and reemphasize some of the things that they've done. It's kind of limitless. So I'm excited to be working on that. Excited to be getting out with the squad and playing some paintball. Excited for 2022 to get underway. Maybe the return of the Red Loader because the people have spoken. They want it. But we'll see. I'm stoked. So again, I have nothing but the greatest shout outs to Chris, Dave, Rhonda, and the whole family at Dye, Billy Wing, Nikki and Fran at Victory Paintball Park. And yeah, it's going to be a good year. Iceman,
Nick Slowiak,
Darren in the background.
Yes, Darren, thank you for sitting there with us. Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Nick, thank you so much for everything you do for the sport and being the person that you are. You are very captivating and fun to watch play the game. Lots of more content coming at you guys here as we head towards the season. Again, March 11th through the 13th is the first NXL event down in Florida. We got some more shows coming at you before then. Check out episode 3 of 4 Sundays, which just dropped yesterday, I believe. Currently, we're here just in my lab cooking up the voiceover for episode 4. What?
No, I think we made that one. That's Chicago, right? So we should.
Oh yeah,
we
3's
made it
out.
Sunday, and then
I'm working on Cup right now. I'm trying to summon the greatness from all these legendary authors from back in the day and write some dope voiceover for everybody. So, wish me luck. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us.
I vote your one-liner from earlier is the intro.
I'm gonna have to write that one down. You inspire me, Nick. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
To what would you give each moment in a day if you knew that you only get 4 unique and different days to shine? It is such an arbitrary number, 4, to be sure. But the parameters are set. You know the day of your execution or of your deliverance. This is a trial by combat. It's a day to define you, a day to test you, a day where all the torturous hours of training come together, where it's you, your gun, your preparation, your teammates and your tenacity, on display, dissected by your enemies, with your skill, your will to win, weighed and measured. It is your chance to prove to the world that in this small slice of place and time, that you above all others are to be remembered, to be respected. In the sport of paintball, it will come down to Sunday, the holy day, where you get to earn your place in the game. And in 2021, you get 4 of these. So this is the story of many moments, but of 1 year of what happens on 4 Sundays.
Hard, they have to, they know it, right? Smart fucking paintball.
Malice is just saving the day again, and Malice gets the crossfield shot as well.
Guys couldn't make the corner like I was as consistent.
They get Konstantin Fedorov back. They have Todd Martinez as the coach. Randy Smith is intent on building a championship team.
I got the chills, and I was like, we're going to win this tournament.
Pressure's all on them because they're number 1 team. We're the 20th place team.
Level undefeated, the number 1 seed in their division.
They have everything to lose, and we have nothing to lose.
No one can touch Dynasty here. That was a complete masterclass.
You go to bed dreaming you get to play Impact on Sunday and send them home. Then you dream you get to play Houston Heat. Who's the other Titan? Dynasty. There's no better feeling than going up against the big Titans.